What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Nash. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Labor Day to you all. If you guys are wondering about my voice tone, this past weekend has been pretty rough for me. I actually just had to help. I literally had to help my mom and my stepfather move. They actually got a apartment in Panorama City, which is actually like a 10-minute drive from where they were at in Van Nuys. So, right now my head is hurting, my ribs are hurting, my back's hurting, even my left shoulder is hurting a little bit. So I will be talking a little less, but I'll try to explain. But in today's video, I have another deck profile for you guys. And I'm not so sure if the camera did justice, but today's deck profile is the updated Crystal Beast deck for the September 2020 format. This is a very volatile. This is a much more different version than my last one. It took me a while to get this figured out, but I did get it figured out. And what's cool about this is that you're focusing. Your main focus is Neos Fusion. That's your big main focus of the deck. Because if you guys don't know, with Neos Fusion, you can send Neos and Rainbow Dragon to your graveyard, and you can summon Rainbow Neos, which essentially is like one of your boss monsters of the whole deck itself. And the best part is you can also, because then I'm also running Rainbow Over Dragon, you can send Rainbow Dragon from your field to your graveyard, special summon Rainbow Over Dragon, and you don't need polymerization. There are hardly any bricks in this deck. I think the only brick would probably have to be Jet Synchron. I know it's weird because I know it's weird that I'm running Jet Synchron, but it actually works. I did some extensive test playing. It works very well. Alright, you guys, without any further ado, let's get into the deck profile. I'm gonna be posting the photo of this deck on my Instagram, so if you guys want to check it out, be sure to follow me on Instagram. The link is down below. Anyway, enough talk, let's get into the deck profile. So obviously, first up, I'm running 3 copies of Rainbow Dragon and the 1 copy of Rainbow Neos. The reason why you're only running one copy of Rainbow Neos is because you're only running 1 Neos Fusion, and you're also running the Verte anaconda, which, if you guys don't know, is pretty much a Neos Fusion, basically. So, definitely need the 1 copy of Elemental Hero Neos. Hang on a second. I was literally running the original for the new version. Alright, there we go. Anyway, so definitely, you definitely need those cards in the deck. And plus, Rainbow Dragon, if you were to have all 3 copies on board, essentially you would have game. Because you could use 1, 2... Because, if you guys don't know, Rainbow Dragon, with this card... During the next turn, you can send all Crystal Beast monsters you control to the graveyard. Or, actually, sorry, no. With this card, you can banish all Crystal Beast monsters from your graveyard, and you can shuffle all cards on the field into the deck. So essentially, it's kind of like a giant Trunade, so to speak, for the deck. So it's pretty good. It's a pretty good card. Yeah, I can't say anything else about the card except that it's broken. Next up, I'm running 3 copies of probably one of the weirdest cards to run three of, but it works. Rainbow Dragon, the Zenith Crystal Beast. This card is essentially a Crystal Beast. Ooh, excuse me. If you guys don't know, I'll read off its effect really quickly. If this is a face-up card... excuse me. excuse me, if this face-up card is destroyed in a monster zone, you can place it face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. So essentially, it has the same effect as all of the other crystals. You can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. So it has 2 effects. When an attack is declared involving a crystal beast monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So essentially, it's like a cyber dragon of sorts. You can banish this card, this continuous spell. Special summon a level 4 or lower crystal beast from your deck, but negates effects, if any. And if you do, add 1 ultimate crystal monster from your deck to your hand. So essentially, you're summoning. So essentially, you're special summoning your Emerald Turtle in defense, and you're adding Rainbow Dragon to your hand. So it's a pretty it's a pretty good card. It's better to use it as a It's better off to use it for its second effect, where you're able to summon a level 4 or lower crystal from your deck, and then adding your Rainbow Dragon from your deck to your hand. So essentially, you want to use it for that, but some people will use it will use it as synchro material, because that your Mega Phantom Beast O-Lion and your Researcher, which I am running one of each, you can synchro into Ascension Sky Dragon, which I am running, which I'll explain that later on. So yeah, but yeah, definitely 3 copies of this. And then for the crystals themselves, I am running 3 copies of Sapphire, which is pretty essential. And then of course I'm running 2 copies of Amber, 2 copies of Topaz, 2 copies of Cobalt, 2 copies of Amethyst, and 2 copies of Emerald. And then I'm also running only 1 copy of Ruby Carbuncle, and the reason why I'm only running 1 copy is because it can easily be searched out from the graveyard with the effects of Sapphire. So that's why I'm only running 1 copy. And plus, you really don't want to see Ruby in your opening hand. If you do, essentially it is a brick. I know that some people will say, oh, it's perfect for defense. No, it is not perfect for defense. And the reason why I say that is because you want to special summon him. You want to special summon her with the effects of you want to special summon her with the effects of a card like Crystal Beacon, where with Beacon you're able to special summon a crystal from your deck, but you have to have at least 2 crystals in your back row. So this card is pretty good, but it's better off for its special summon effect, because when you special summon it, you can target any and all crystals in your back row that's face up in your back row and special summon them, so you can go into your Link plays, your Xyz plays, and whatnot. This card is pretty good, but it's better off as a 1. And then for the tuners, I have the 1 Mega Phantom Beast O-Lion, the 1 Adamaspear Researcher, and of course just Synchron. There's really nothing too crazy to talk about with those 3 cards, so it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not even going to go there. So that's pretty much it for the monsters. Now moving on to the spells. First up, I am running 2 copies of Crystal Bonds. Some people will say it's better to run it as 3. I was thinking about that, but I realized it's better to keep it as 2. Just because there wasn't enough deck space for a 3rd copy. But this card is still pretty good, because you get to excuse me. You get to add a crystal from your deck to your hand, and then you get to place a crystal in your spell and trap zone. So essentially, you want to add Sapphire to your hand, and then place Rainbow Dragon, the Zenith Crystal Beast, face up in your back row. So when you do that, you can normal summon the Sapphire, trigger his effect, and then place the Ruby, and then place one of your doubles in your back row. So later on you can use its effect. So it's still pretty good. It is literally it's an awesome card. Excuse me. I know that some people prefer it as 3. I prefer it at 2 just because I wanted to keep this as consistent as possible, and just running 2 is so much better in my honest opinion. And then of course, again, the 1 copy of Neos Fusion. I'm not really gonna say anything else about the card. It's essentially Rainbow Neos. Literally you play this card and you summon Rainbow Neos. It's that simple. Then of course I'm running 1 copy of Crystal Blessing. Excuse me. This spell is actually unique because with this card you can target up to two crystals in your graveyard and set them and place them face up in your back row. That's pretty broken. It's pretty broken. And what's interesting is that it's not a hard once per turn. It's a soft once per turn, meaning you can use its effect over and over and over again if you're running multiple copies. But with this deck, because I wanted to make this deck as consistent as possible, I only decided to run 1 copy, because with this deck, essentially with this variant, it ensures that you have multiple crystals in your back row without the use of Crystal Blessing. So this card is pretty good, but it's better off as a 1. And then of course the 1 copy of Rare Value. Nothing really too crazy with this one. It's essentially a pot of greed with the cost of your opponent selecting 1 of your crystals in your back row and sending it to your graveyard. So other than that, it's a pretty good draw card. I believe this is the only draw card that I'm running in the deck, other than Crystal Bonds and this next one that I'm running, which is Rainbow Bridge. This card pretty much just gives you a crystal spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So essentially you can add Crystal Blessing, Crystal Abundance, which I'm running, Crystal Beacon, which I'm running, Crystal Tree, which is 2 copies of. Pretty much anything with crystal in its name, you can add it to your hand. And then of course, again, Crystal Abundance. This is essentially your Dark Hole, Harpy's Feather Duster combo, where you can send, where if you have 4 crystals in your back row, you send them to your graveyard, and then all cards on the field are sent to the graveyard. So if those are the only, if the 4 crystals, if they're the only ones you have in your on your field, you're not sending a whole lot to your graveyard. You're just sending you're literally sending your opponent's field to your graveyard. So essentially it's kind of like Nibiru of sorts. But the best part is that for each card sent to the graveyard, to your opponent's field anyway, you can summon a crystal from your graveyard. So you will normally want to go after Sapphire, Zenith, Topaz, Amber, and then just those cards in general, and then use Sapphire's effect and put Ruby in your back row. So when you have more crystals in your back row, you can go ahead and special summon your Ruby, and then just essentially go for your combos and then go for game. So it's pretty good. It's a pretty cool card. I know that a lot of people have made a mistake and ran 2 copies. That's the wrong way to go. It's better off at 1 because at some point you will be banishing your cards with the effects of your Rainbow Dragon if you decide to do that. Other than that, again, this card is just better off as 1. And then of course the 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Nothing really too crazy there, just as a extender. And then of course Crystal Beacon. I talked about this earlier in the video. If you have 2 or more crystals in your back row, you can special summon a crystal from your deck. So this is where you would normally want to summon your Ruby. So if you have Ruby still in your deck, you can So if you have two, if you have a ruby, if ruby is in your deck and you have at least 2 crystals, or even 4 for that matter, in your back row, you activate Crystal Beacon, special summon the ruby in defense position, target, and then activate her effect, special summon the crystals, and essentially you have game, because you can go into your rank 4 plays, you can go into your link plays, more specifically, Verte Anaconda, trigger Conda's effect, and then go into the Neo's play. So that's so this is a really excellent card. And then, of course, 2 copies of Crystal Tree. Probably not the best card to play, but if you guys don't know what it does, it says here that each time a Crystal Beast monster or monsters is placed in either player's spell and trap zone, place a crystal counter on this card. You can send this card to the graveyard, take a number of Crystal Beast monsters from your deck equal to the number of crystal counters that were on this card, and place them face up in your spell and trap zone as continuous spell. So, essentially, this is another great way for you to activate Ruby's effect with the effects of Crystal Beacon. Because with Crystal Tree, you can set your back row full of crystals, activate Beacon's effect, target the Ruby, special summon her in defense mode, trigger her effect, summon the crystals, and go into your link play. So this is another great way to do that. But the big downside is that it can easily be, it's an easy twin twister target, so you need to, so there has to be an out to it, and luckily with the extra deck itself there is an out, and I'll talk about that later on in the video. And then to round up the spells, we have 2 copies of Crystal Release. So this is essentially the only equip card of the deck, where you target a crystal on your field, it gains 800, and if this card were to be sent to the graveyard, you can place a crystal from your deck in your spell and trap zone face up. So it's a pretty cool card. And then last but not least, 2 copies of Ancient City Rainbow Ruins. I know that some people will say, well, why aren't you running Terraforming? The reason why I am not running Terraforming in the deck is because you don't need it. You don't need it because that you're thinning out your deck with the effects of your rare value and your Rainbow Bridge and your Crystal Bonds. Basically it ensures that you will be able to see Ancient City Rainbow Ruins in your next turn at some point. So that's why I'm not running the one Terraforming. And then the only trap cards that I'm running in the deck, I am running 1 copy of Rainbow Gravity. This is an interesting one because its effect is the exact same as Rainbow Dragon, but you're literally ignoring all of its conditions. So if you have 7 crystal, so even if you have like 1 crystal on board and like 7 and like 6 in your graveyard, Rainbow Dragon is summoned out just like that. But with Rainbow Dragon, it's the exact same way, but there's a condition to it. So that's why I'm running the 1 copy of Rainbow Gravity. It's because it's because essentially it's a Monster Reborn. It's essentially a Monster Reborn for Rainbow Dragon, so it's pretty cool. And then I am running 2 copies of Dimensional Prison. Obviously, you want to try and out your opponent's Appaloosa, Access Code Talker, and this card pretty much guarantees that. Some people will say that Access Code Talker can't be targeted. Wrong. It can be targeted. A lot of people don't know about that, but Access Code Talker can be banished easily. It can be targeted with card effects, and that's why I'm running the 2 copies of Dimensional Prison. And then the last card in the main deck is 2 copies of Crystal Conclave. This is an interesting one. Its effect says once per turn, if a face-up Crystal Beast monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your deck. That right there is just broken on its own, because essentially it's similar to Crystal Beacon, but with the cost but with the side effect that one of your crystals has to be destroyed. And then its second effect says you can send this face-up card from your field to your graveyard. Then target a crystal you control and a card on the field. Return them to the hand. So essentially, so essentially it's like a oh, what's that one card called? It's like it's kind of like an Exile Force, sort of. It's sort of like that. But yeah. So that's the main deck. Nothing really too crazy there. Now for the extra deck. First up, we have obviously Rainbow Overdragon. There's really not much to talk about with this card, but you don't. But if you tribute Rainbow Dragon and you summon this card, you don't need poly. You don't need polymerization. And with this card, basically you can banish a Crystal Beast monster from your graveyard, and this card gains attack points equal to that banished monster's attack points until the end of the turn. And then also as a quick effect, it has an effect similar to Rainbow Dragon itself, where you tribute it, all cards on the field are shuffled back into the deck. So essentially, you don't want to use Rainbow Dragon for its banish effect. You want to wait for Rainbow Overdragon to do that. And then of course Rainbow Neos. What's cool about this is that you want to use its first effect. So when you activate Verte Anaconda, essentially you've already done it. You've already used up Anaconda's effect. So you activate Rainbow Neos effect, target the Conda, send it to the graveyard, and all monsters your opponent controls go back into the deck. And that is the one thing that you want to do. Even though it may seem like you want to send them to your graveyard, that's where everything lies. That's where all of today's combos lie, is within the graveyard. That's why Rainbow Neos is so broken in today's format. Even back in the day, it wasn't even that good back then. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. Its effect, it was cool for its artwork, but nowadays it is so broken. It is so broken because of the fact that we have Anaconda, in today's format. And then of course the one copy of Ascension Sky Dragon. Nothing really too crazy here, but if you guys don't know, he gains 800 points for each card that's in your hand. That's why I'm running rare value, is because when you draw more, it's because with each card you draw, it gains 800 points. And if this card were to be destroyed, not only... So, with this card, if it were to be sent to the graveyard, destroyed by battle, most likely, all the monsters that were used that were used to summon him are summoned back to the field, but with the effects negated. So essentially, you can just use them again for this next one, which is Adamaspear Risen Dragai. Dragai is just really cool. There's really nothing really too crazy about this card. The card is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not really going to explain it. Arclight, and then Herald of the Arclight, it's self-explanatory, another really good card. An excellent disruption. Literally, it's an excellent disruption. So I'm not really going to say much about it. For the Exceeds monsters, we have Sky Palace Gangari Day, which I believe this card can... Yeah, so basically this card can deal 1,000 damage, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, even more damage. Gustav Max is just pretty broken. Tornado Dragon is essentially a MST on board, so an MST on legs. And then Abyss Dweller, probably the best card in the format. It's literally an excellent disruption because it focuses on your opponent's graveyard. So even if your opponent were to ash you, they can't. They really can't. For the Link monsters, we have Borosword Dragon, which is self-explanatory. Nightmare Unicorn is self-explanatory. Mega Phantom Beast, Auroradon, which is self-explanatory, obviously because of the O-line that's in the deck. Nightmare Phoenix is pretty good because it's literally, it's a spell, and trap removal. That's it. Nothing more to say about that. Crystron Halka Fibrax, again with the whole Jet Synchron thing. And then, shockingly enough, you can actually link it. And ironically enough, you can actually link this card off into Verde Anaconda. A lot of people don't know it, but you can actually do that. Crazy enough. So that's literally the extra deck. It's self-explanatory. I'm not really going to talk about it a whole lot. The side deck, I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot because it's self-explanatory. But I'm running 2 copies of Nibiru, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Lightning Storm, 3 copies of Call by the Grave, 3 copies of Crackdown, which is really good because you can link off your opponent's monster into verte Anaconda, and then of course the 1 copy of Judgment of Anubis. So that is going to do it for this deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys love seeing these deck profiles and some of the other content that I produce, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any new content that comes your way. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. All 3 of my links are down in the description below. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.